I pretty much did the biggest bloke move ever. I've gone in and tried to pull the Sigma drive apart this morning, went all gun-ho, got stuck, moved on to the next job, tried to pull the hydrovane apart, all gun-ho, got stuck. Pretty standard sort of man.
Hello, good morning.
Another morning, another mammoth task to undertake, but we might as well get all the big ones going because they're the ones that are going to take the most amount of time. And so a reef scenario that happened at the start of the year, we're starting to see a few extra little things that we never fixed when we came out of the water last time, just these few little niggling issues that may have occurred, and one of them was the fact that the prop was all okay, but there was just one slight little ding in it, and so I think the prop at some stage had hit the reef when we were trying to get off, and because of that I think the shaft has been bent slightly, because if you look at this you can see that cutlass has worn out a bit, and because we have the Sigma drive that attaches the shaft to the gearbox, there's no alignment issues or anything like that, because the Sigma drive allows for up to like 7 degrees deviation, so that's a lot when it comes down to back here. And so everything up there has got to be fine, but I think back here, because this cutlass is worn, I think that's because the shaft has been bent. This cutlass was new when we put the new stern tube in last year in the boatyard, and that's a neoprene cutlass, so that should not be wearing. That should take bloody 10 years to wear. So I think the shaft has just bent slightly to be off axis, and that's what's caused the wear in the cutlass. And you can see there that there's a couple of mil play now, so that's definitely needs to be changed. So to do that, I'm gonna have to take off the rudder and then undo the Sigma drive inside, slip the rotor off through the PSS shaft seal, and then pull the shaft out, and then we'll be able to take the prop off and then have a look at the shaft to see if it needs to be straightened, which I think it will be. So let's see how good my calculations are. But first, I don't know if you've seen this rudder. Check out that puppy. Don't know if you know, this prop made that. Just like to put that out there. You know, bit of a rudder builder. But check that out. Alright, but yeah, it's a Sunday morning and it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, so we might as well just start smashing into this. It's the only way to do it, really, is just bloody get into it.
Get her, son. Get her. That's the way. Get into it, son.
Alright, sweet, so that's the rudder off. Took that old anode off the shaft as well, because that was looking pretty manky. And I might just clean up that bit of shaft, but then we'll go inside and undo the Sigma drive. Not really looking forward to this. To tighten up that Sigma drive took me a few hours, and you know, whenever you do something up, you do it up to never come undone, and now I need to try to get it undone. With that anode off now and the rudder free, you can really see how much that's moving. So there's definitely something wrong somewhere. That shouldn't move at all. That should just be solid. So taking out all those studs that hold it on together. So the Sigma drive kind of acts as like a friction, so you tighten it around, so there's no actually nut on the end that connects the Sigma drive onto the back of the gearbox. So it's all of these nuts that you tighten up in a star pattern that clamps onto the shaft and stops it from falling out. So in theory, if you are to hit something, the shaft is going to spin. That's what it's meant to do. But I don't know, maybe it spun, maybe it didn't, but because the shaft has been put right back up in there, it's super tight. So now I need to try to lever the shaft out. There's nothing actually holding the shaft in now. It's just the tension of what the Sigma drive already had placed around the shaft. So I have to try to lever off the prop, I think, at the back. This is gonna suck. It's one thing about the auto prop, you haven't got a fixed blade to lever off of. It makes it a little bit harder. So not really having a lever point, kind of had to walk away and have a little think about it of how I'm going to just pull the shaft out straight, because there's nothing holding it in there. So with the star studs on the Sigma drive, how you do up all the screws, that brings the clamp on down, but I've taken all those screws out, so the clamp isn't just going to miraculously go apart. So it's still just clamped on, but there's nothing holding it there. So I've just got to pull that friction out from the shaft to get it out of the clamp. And so sitting here was trying to lever it, wasn't really succeeding, so I had to walk away, have a coffee, and I put my bloody thinking hat on. What was I doing going to work without my work hat? And now I've got a genius idea. There's a bit of tension on that. There's still a lot of slop because of the length of the slings I got going on, so there's a bit of direct force on it, but I might just go check inside first. Otherwise I'll just keep cranking. Oh well, I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board on that one. That was skull dragging the car. Oh, so there's a bit of force there. Well, we'll have to reassess this situation, I think, because the car's just not a heavy enough anchor point. It's a 3/4 ton come along, so I know that car's pretty light, probably weighs about 500 kilos or 800 kilos or something, but just in the loose gravel we're skull dragging it. Man. Well, I pretty much did the biggest bloke move ever. I've gone in and tried to pull the Sigma drive apart this morning, went all gun-ho, got stuck, moved on to the next job, tried to pull the hydro vane apart, all gun-ho, got stuck. Pretty standard sort of man. Then went and found the manual. Turns out I got some backing screws that I can put onto the Sigma drive that should just pop that right off. So I won't do that now though, because it says not to reuse the screws if you do use them to back thread to pull it out. So I'll go to the shop tomorrow and find some high tensiles, and hopefully tomorrow I'll be successful in getting the shaft out of the Sigma drive. And I went and got the manual for the hydro vane, and I'm just missing a bolt that's been holding it on. That's why I can't lift it up. Pretty blokey move. But yeah, so we're a bit more organised today rather than going gun-ho. I've got the manual, and it turns out there is 4 little jacking screws sort of deal I put in the back of the tightening clamp. So I'll go around and tighten those 4, and that should push the clamp off of the shaft, the Sigma drive part off the shaft. I went down to the shop this morning to go buy a couple of extra longer bolts. They're high tensile little bolts that are used in the clamp to hold the shaft into the Sigma drive, but it says not to reuse these, because I'm guessing you can thread them pretty hard because you're putting a fair bit of pressure back in to try to push this push the shaft out. So I had to go down and make sure I could get some more of these bolts, which I have, and I decided that I thought it'd even be smarter if I got some longer versions of that with the same thread. So hopefully, yeah, there's enough extra space to be able to push the shaft out in case those other bolts shorten out. But I managed to find some new replacement bolts as well, so I'll put new ones in when we put the shaft back in. Yeah! It's amazing what can happen when you read the manual. So these jacking bolts, I've been going at it for probably 45 minutes, I suppose. But we're kind of nearly freely screwing now, and I can visually see the shaft moving backwards. It's about time. Oh, there you go, the Sigma drive's freely spinning now, so that shaft must be nearly free. Okay, so the shaft is free. Shaft is free of the Sigma drive, and this here's the clamp that tightens around the shaft, and then that screws into the Sigma drive. Now we're just going to get this coupling off. When I take this off, I'll have to put it back on the exact same place because the clearance on the prop and the rudder is only like 10-15 mil, so this needs to be pretty accurate for when it goes back in. I guess I'll just see if I can't tap that off with a hammer gently. Sweet! And so that's just what clamps down on the shaft. So that's when if you hit something, your shaft can spin on the inside. Once you have a bent shaft, the Sigma drive will help hide that, and so it won't do any damage to your gearbox, but because it's then spinning off axis to a degree, I think that's what's worn the cutlass. Now that I got the shaft out, I'm going to have to take the prop off. So the boys have just come have a look to see if the shaft is bent. Like, I don't have a straight edge. I was hoping they could just quickly whip a straight edge on it or something. But they said no, they'll have to put it in the machine, which makes sense. But to do that, they'll put it in the lathe or whatever to spin it to see if it is bent. So I'll have to take the prop off to do that. So it's pretty easy to take the prop off. It's just a little grub screw that holds the lock nut on. And then from there, I've got to get a little prop puller to pull it off. I did put a bit of grease on here, so hopefully it's not too hard to come off. Hopefully, like, once it just kind of gets moving, it'll pop off. The keyway is snug, it's not totally tight. I remember making it pretty perfect. I spent quite a bit of time in making it millimeter perfect. So yeah, I've just got to find my prop puller, and for some reason I just can't find it. I know I've got one because I used it in the boatyard last year or the year before, but I know I had one, but I remember it juggling around because it's a tool you don't really use very often, and it was in my tool cupboard and it was just pissing me off because it kept rattling around. It was starting to get a little bit rusty, so I don't know whether I threw it out or if I've just hidden it in another compartment. I probably would have just hidden it, but I know I hit it too good. We'll see what I can find. Yeah, so I can't find the old prop puller, but I asked a couple of other yachties that are around here and working on their boats. I just asked whether I could go purchase one somewhere, and one fella said he borrowed another yachty, so I went over and met him, and he's just brought over his, but his prop puller is a proper prop puller, and it's to fit a shaft 1 inch, whereas Nandji's shaft is 1 1/4, so that didn't work. And now another fella's come over just randomly and dropped off one of those three prong pullers, one of these bad boys, and so it's a little bit short, but he's also given me a secondary one that he kind of conjured up himself, adding some chain links in there just to get that extra length. So I have a little play, and I'm going to pull both apart and build one so I can get the length of the 3 prongs to get around the bottom of the auto prop, because the boss of the auto prop is quite big. But hopefully I know I can build one tool out of these 2 and get the prop off. Alright, well that's not gonna work. Alright, now we're talking. Get the big dog onto it. You are being a nightmare. Alright, well if this don't work, I'm just basically gonna throw in the towel and sell Nandji. I've got to cut myself up a couple of plates now, so they're kind of bigger than the boss. So the clamp should be able to reach down over the top, clamp onto them, and then it's got the rotor onto the prop. So hopefully all of that holds together. Nandji's for sale. Oh, it popped, so I got the prop off. Nandji is no longer for sale. Oh, thank you. That was easy.